Welcome to Between Two Ovaries, your go-to for all things women's health.
A lot of people just say like, oh, my vagina.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
that's all of the above. That's not your vagina.
No.
Well, it is.
We're here to cut through the confusion, bust some myths, and give you the facts straight from the experts.
You cannot still believe the amount of people that come to a gynecology clinic saying that they don't look right down there and they need something doing about it.
We're keeping it real, bringing you honest conversations about topics that matter to you.
Everything goes back to the menstrual cycle. Yes, it's a low-risk procedure, but it's not a no-risk procedure.
From periods to menopause and everything in between, we've got you covered.
So whether you're here to learn, laugh, or just listen, you are in the right place.
As soon as I said it. So, welcome to Anna Cooper. We have a guest in our new kind of surroundings. We're all getting used to this. Thanks, Anna, for coming. Anna's a massive advocate for all things women's health. She's spoken widely of her suffering with endometriosis in order to empower others. Through her tireless work, she has co-founded the Menstrual Health Project, educating widely and raising awareness for menstrual health-related conditions. Anna's also a wife, a mum to a little girl, and also to 2 German shepherds, a rabbit and a tortoise. All of the things. Thanks so much for coming to chat with us today. You've been so open and honest. I've seen you all of the social media and all of the amazing stuff that you've been doing. And we know that our listeners will learn so much from listening to you, and we're really grateful for you coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
We're hoping that you'll be able to talk through your journey with us, and I know it's not a straightforward one by any stretch of imagination. And we'll also like to discuss all things the Menstrual Health Project as well. I think it's really important that people understand the work that you've been doing. Let's welcome. welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to have you here.
And just quickly, let's just say what endometriosis is, which we've done multiple episodes on endometriosis, and I am sure that our listeners will understand what it is, but just a quick recap. Go on, Alison.
What it is. So, obviously, you know, Anna. For our listeners, endometriosis is a chronic inflammatory estrogen-dependent condition. It's where the lining of the womb, the endometrium, tissue that is like the endometrium is found outside of the womb, and it can cause heavy periods, it can cause chronic pelvic pain, it can cause subfertility, it can affect your bowel, it can affect any part of your body, and it can be severely debilitating. But that being said, it's a huge spectrum, so you can have endometriosis and it affects just your ovaries, or you can have endometriosis and it affects your bowel, other parts of your body. It's a real variety of symptoms, and everyone's experience is different, I think is fair to say.
I think the big thing is that so many people's symptoms are different, and symptoms don't correlate with the stage of the disease.
No.
So I think a lot of people focus on, well, I've got stage whatever, so I should be fitting into these boxes here, or I should be fitting, and actually that just doesn't work.
Matter. No. I think it also plays down somebody's pain if they've been diagnosed with stage 1 or stage 2 and they're in agony, but you know, and then they're being told, but you're only stage 1 or stage 2, so you shouldn't be in that much pain. So it doesn't correlate at all. So I think it puts it down a little bit.
We've brought this up before in our previous episodes, but I think it's also really interesting that you might have someone who goes for a laparoscopy for a different reason, so say to
like
have
a sterilisation,
and so doesn't complain of any symptoms of endometriosis, but then when you have a look inside their tummy, you can see a frozen pelvis, so everything is stuck together because there's really severe endometriosis. So you can have someone like that who doesn't have any symptoms, or subjectively doesn't think they have any symptoms, but you could have someone who has a very visibly small amount of endometriosis, but that is completely debilitating to their life. Chronic pain, can't work, and it's really not about what you can see, it's about how the disease is affecting the person that is much more important.
And I think because we know it's a chronic condition, it's not something that we can cure, we can treat, and I think it's really important to understand that we can try and treat the symptoms. Everybody's symptoms will be very different, and that might mean that although you, say myself and Lorna, have endometriosis, your symptoms could be quite different to mine, so we wouldn't particularly go on the same treatments because we want to try and target your main problem.
Yeah.
And if my main problem is different to you, then there's no point trying to target with the same thing.
Yeah.
And I think getting that understanding across that everybody is very different with endometriosis is a good starting point.
Yeah. It's so important because also comparison's the thief, isn't it? So people can compare a lot of the time. I get it with me. You know, just because you've been diagnosed with bowel endometriosis doesn't mean you're going to end up with a stoma necessarily. So I think, it's important.
Yeah, making sure that everybody understands that symptoms potentially don't correlate with disease, but also that the symptoms are what we can try and help with, not cure. We can help with them because we can't cure this. This isn't a condition that we can go in and remove. And even if you have all organs removed that have any bit of endometriosis on, it doesn't mean that you are now cured of endometriosis. So I think getting that message across can be quite difficult, and getting people's mindset to let's treat the symptoms and not go for kind of a cure in a sense of trying to get rid of the disease because we know we can't. Then I think having that mindset perhaps helps people.
Yeah, definitely. I think so.
Want to make their lives better.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Perfect. So I don't know, feels like a good place to start at the beginning.
Yeah.
Would you be happy, Anna, sort of telling us your whole story, starting at the beginning, and sort of, did you always know there was an issue from like your first period where you're like, something's wrong?
Yeah, so I was brought up in a really conservative household, so we didn't talk about periods at all. So my dad was the one, bless him, who was the one who was like, you know, something's not right here when I started. But if we go back to kind of getting used to your body ready for when you start periods, I had no clue. There was nothing, I hadn't been told anything. And I remember it really vividly. It was my 11th birthday party and I'd gone to the toilet.
Oh my gosh.
I bled through everywhere and I thought I was dying. We hadn't had the education in school. My mum hadn't spoken about it. My mum was a nurse as well. So like, but it was obviously how she was brought up. That was how she was brought up, not to talk about it. And that was the same with us. And from the get-go, it was really heavy, painful, but you're just told that's your normal. And I got to about 13, 14, and they then referred me to a paediatrician thinking, because I kept getting cyclical swelling under my rib. And they didn't really know what was causing it and kept going back. Saw a paediatrician. He thought it was just excess breast tissue and I'd be fine. And then I saw a GP, kept going back and forth to a GP. Bearing in mind my period, I used to bleed for up to 72 days, so really heavy.
days.
Yeah, and I'd bleed through pads every 30 minutes. I was severely anemic. Like
So
I
were
was
you able
really
to like go
poorly.
to school?
So I missed a lot of school, but I was also not like incredibly academic, but I loved school, you know, like I loved learning. So I would force myself and then end up being sent home because I'd be in the doctor's, you know, nurse's office and them.
That's a massive impact. though.
Massive.
Like
Yeah.
not going to school changes so many things because it's not just education, but that's the way you socialise. That's the way that you kind of understand the norms, and you can speak to other people about periods, especially if you're not getting that at home.
Yeah.
And I hope that education, and I know you do so much about education, but I hope education is a bit better these days.
Yeah.
I will, if that's something we're coming on to,
Yeah, we
I
will.
will talk about that.
Yeah.
And that's primarily why I started with my best friend Gab's MHP. Unfortunately, it was not there when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
And I just remember none of my friends were going through it the same, or we weren't talking about it at least. So you just felt completely isolated. My dad kept going. So my mum and dad had separated when I was 12. So when I did see my dad, he'd take me to the GP, and then it would be my mum taking me to the GP, and you'd kind of get one answer from one doctor and another from another. And in the end, they just went, it's part and parcel of being a woman, you just need to get used to it. And they would not refer me to gynae until I was 16. So then at 16, I eventually got in front of a gynaecologist, back in the day when you did actually get a referral quite quickly. But I saw her and I thought, finally, someone's going to listen, especially being female. I thought, this is it now. And she could have been nothing but just dismissive and basically tried to make it out that I had a sexually transmitted disease and I wasn't sexually active. So she then said, can we do all these tests? And I went, do that. And this was in front of my dad, because my dad used to come to all my gynae appointments, bless his heart. And I was like, yeah, do whatever you need. And somehow, and I don't really remember, but I think it was my dad had done his research. He said, I think you need to do a laparoscopy to see what's going on. So she agreed reluctantly and did it, and said she only found a cyst and that there was nothing else there. I was fine. So sent me home, discharged me, and lo and behold, a letter comes through to the GP saying I needed clinical psychological help.
Really?
Because I've still got the letter at home saying that she thinks all the pain is psychological, that I've got a really kind of negative outlook on illness, and that I need basically psychological intervention.
And you're 16 at this
I was 16, yeah.
Can I add you, because you've seen multiple different healthcare professionals, had any of them started you on any treatment at any point?
Nothing.
Were you still not on any treatment?
So I'd had the pill, so the combined pill, but that was it. So no kind of depot. They didn't do depot because I was under 16, like no implant, no coil. She didn't mention the coil at the time. Later on down the line I had the Mirena coil, but yeah, so only the combined pill.
Really makes my heart sing.
I know, it's so
but I want to, this is something with kind of the charity me and Gabs were really, really passionate to do, is to bridge that gap between patient and professional, because unfortunately there are so many of us, being women in particular, that have been dismissed over the years, but there are so many good professionals like yourselves that look after us, you know. So I think it's reminding people like myself that there are those people out there that are there to help you, and that's something that I gained back, years later. But 4 months after I had that surgery with that gynae, I got rushed into A&E, crippling pain, passed out at home, and blue lighted in, and I saw a general surgeon, and I'll never ever forget him because I owe so much to him. And he said to me, I think you've got an appendicitis, your blood's come back, your infection markers through the roof, I'm taking you down to surgery. So took me to surgery, and I thought, great, appendix is going to get whipped out, I'll be fine. And came out, and he said, I'm really sorry, but you've got endo everywhere, but I've removed your appendix because you don't need it, it's just going to cause more havoc. And he said, I can't treat it, but I'll refer you back to the said gynae to look after you. And I was an inpatient at the time. She went back to her and she refused to treat me. She said she didn't agree with his findings at all.
And how long had
4 months.
4 months
From
months. That laparoscopy to the one for
and then
appendicitis.
while I was an inpatient recovering from that appendectomy, I saw her and she refused to see me. All whilst this was going on, my dad, bless him, I can just imagine him like squirreling away on his laptop. He found a specialist in Birmingham, in Edgbaston Priory. He took me privately to see him within the space of a couple of weeks. And I remember sitting down with him, and literally within 30 seconds he just validated me, and I went, oh my God, there are consultants. They listen, you know. But again, he was quite, didn't really think I'd have a huge amount of endometriosis, because he was like, she would have definitely seen it and she would have removed it.
Can we just pause for 1 second? Yeah. I'm really sorry, but just for listeners to understand this, with regards to endometriosis, everybody gets very het up that it's a progressive disease. And we actually don't know that, because we're not really sure what happens. And it seems that when you do laparoscopies on people, that some seem to regress, some people stay the same, some people definitely get worse. But there is just no way that you have no endometriosis and a belly full of endometriosis 4 months later. I just wanted to make sure that was definitely out there, because that's not possible. It's just not a thing.
Not in that short space of time.
No.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, because when I saw this specialist in Birmingham and he operated on me, I thought that operation, he'd go in. Again, I was very naive, didn't really know what endometriosis was. I'd done a little bit of research, not very much. wasn't spoken about as much as it is now. And came out that surgery and he went, Anna, I'm really sorry, but it's everywhere, and I need a urologist, I need a colorectal surgeon involved, you need a bowel resection, you need a bladder resection, it's everywhere. And I just remember just smiling, and my dad was looking at me like I was nuts, going, are you all right? And it was because I'd finally had an answer to all the pain I was in. It made so much sense, because from about 14, 15, it was rectal bleeding constantly. It was UTI symptoms with no UTIs, chronic back pain, chronic pelvic pain, you know, periods lasting that long. Just nothing was controlling. Like, pain management was just through the roof, because, you know, ibuprofen and paracetamol, and then they were putting me on morphine so young. And then... yeah, so 2 weeks later I went back into major surgery and had it all excised and had my resections. And I remember waking up from that surgery thinking, oh my God, I'm not in that pain. Like,
So you had a bowel resection then?
bowel and bladder
How old were you
resection,
then?
18.
Wow.
Can I ask the question?
Yeah.
Resection, what do we mean by that?
So I assume they wouldn't make a stoma at that point.
No, so I was
they'd take out
managed, yeah.
a bit of,
Just took a bit of it.
a bit of your bowel out and then
rejoin them together.
Replumbed.
Wow.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. But then that also, I think, at that time, wasn't really explained to me what that surgery kind of impacts you, you know. I kind of just went on my merry way, thinking I was going to be fine.
I'm done.
I'm done and I'll be
You can't be
fine.
blamed for that either, because you are just looking for something that will improve your pain. And when you're in pain chronically, like you were,
Yeah.
if someone tells you, I can operate on you and I can take some of that pain away,
Yeah.
you don't really think, well, what are the risks? Because you just want the pain to go away, but
And
they
also
really
you're
need to
so
tell
young.
you.
Yeah.
How
I
much
was-
can you take in when you're like,
Yeah.
you've
Yeah.
not, I don't know.
You don't know what to ask, I suppose, at that age.
No.
At any age, probably.
And
but
also-
like, especially.
Yeah, I think as well as parents, I think now being a parent myself, like, I'm so prepared, like, if something happens with Grace, but my mum and my dad, neither of them had any education. Like, my mum, even being a nurse, she'd heard of it, but not really kind of dealt with it, and didn't know the extent of what it could do, and it was aggressive by the time we'd got there, you know. But I can't help but think, like, if we'd have just intervened when I first, would we be?
Possibly.
And that's the thing, like, something I try not to dwell on, because you'll just forever just get angry about it. And I think for me, I've then been lucky over the years that I've then developed such a kind of good relationship. It sounds strange saying good relationship with your gynecologist, but you do, with your endometriosis specialist. But after that surgery, within 9 months I had more, so I had to go back in surgery again, and I had to have my peritoneum stripped. I had to have it removed from my womb, my ovaries, and my bladder again.
So the peritoneum, for anybody listening, is like the covering, basically.
Yeah.
So if you opened your tummy up and looked inside, and if you think it's a bit like a washing up bowl with a lot of, I don't know how to
Cling
describe it.
film, I
Yeah.
kind of
It's
described
like
it.
a covering, I think, is good.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
It drapes over all your organs, really, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And it acts to kind of protect them, and it moves around them, but
It's
it
like
can
the
get
wallpaper.
endometriosis.
Yeah.
that's
That's
a
a
good
good
analogy.
analogy,
Stripping the wallpaper.
actually. Yeah, stripping
Yeah.
the wallpaper.
But the problem is, when you strip the wallpaper, it will come back again. Yes. And also when we strip the wallpaper, it makes it sticky, so we don't know what else is going to stick to where the wallpaper was.
Yeah.
So
And that was the issue then, because my first, I'm trying to count now, first 4 surgeries were done in 10 months.
Wow, that's an intense 10 months.
10 months, yeah. And
how
then,
old were you then?
So I was nearly 17, nearly 18. So I was 2 weeks from my 18th birthday when I got my big surgery. So
Well, I'm just thinking, right? So you think of what you were doing between 17 and 18, like 10, like just because it's closer to when I was 17. And 18. But I'm just kind of thinking, like, that's not what an inverted commas normal
No.
trajectory is. Like, you should be going out, hanging with friends, thinking about your A-levels, what you're going to do for the rest of your life.
Everything.
Like, birthday party, not an 18th
Massively.
birthday surgery.
Yeah, and I remember my 18th birthday party, I had all my dressings in my stomach, and I had a play suit on, and I had like a lace bit in the middle. You could see all my dressings. And my friend went, "Are you alright?" And I went, "Yeah," but I wasn't drinking on my 18th birthday party, and I was there just like having a house party, everyone drinking, and I was like, I'm still recovering. Just trying to be normal. But it is, I think, for me, where my kind of real passion lights in my belly is for education around it. Because when I was doing my A-levels, I was so determined to sit my A-levels. And when my first lot of surgery was, it was when I was like, it was due when I was doing my A-levels. And then I thought, right, I can't sit my A-levels because my A-levels, like, I'm in recovering from surgery. So they gave me cash-in grades, which obviously aren't what you predicted. Right. And I loved, like, the subjects I was doing, and I was determined the following year to go back. So I was allowed to do it from home and then go back to sit my exams. And the next surgery, when it had grown back, fell on that exact exam. So I had to have cash-in grades again. And I was like, and I remember seeing a career advisor in my college, and she turned around to me and went, "Don't bother going to uni, you're too ill." And I didn't. And that's what stopped me from going to uni. And I just think now, like, I could have done open uni. I could have, you know, there was so many things I could have done. But that, and it's trying to switch people's mindsets into being, just because they're poorly doesn't mean that they can't thrive. Like, they can absolutely do what they want to do. Like, I didn't think I'd run a charity, but here we are. Like, you know. And I just think there's these kind of, the way we have been in society, we kind of put people down and kind of discount them already just because they're poorly, and it shouldn't be the case.
Yeah. Well, you'll be definitely inspiring other people to do what you're doing. Like, if you can't see yourself doing something, then you can't be it, can you?
No,
you have to be able to, like, see and visualise it, which is why education is so important. Yeah. So if, you know, back when you were in school, if that careers person had some more understanding about endometriosis, they might have been able to advise you differently.
Even if you don't have to, you don't have to know everything, you know. You just need to have that bit compassion and understanding. I think it just goes a long way. Like, I find that in everything in life. I think just have that bit of compassion for anybody, and it changes the perspective completely. And 100%. My going back to, like, my life with surgery and stuff, to this day I've had 18 surgeries now. Wow. Waiting for my 19th one at the moment, which is scaring me slightly because I didn't want it, but we're out of options. And I have 2 stoma bags, so I've got an ileostomy and a urostomy, so I lost my large bowel completely in its entirety, and I've lost majority of my bladder, but it's completely diverted out into a stoma. I had a hysterectomy when I was 28, including my ovaries removed, and it's just been a nightmare. And between my total colectomy, subtotal colectomy, and my hysterectomy, it was 6 months. Oh wow. So massive battering that year I took, and it's just, and now because they left part of my bladder behind, I've had sepsis 7 times in 2 years, nearly being fatal 3 times, to the point they told my husband, like, we're not sure if she's gonna pull through this. Gosh. And I count myself very lucky that but they've left part of my bladder behind because it was so stuck with everything. But they're wondering, so the bug that keeps causing me to go septic is E. coli. And they're wondering if it's, even though it's not connected to my ureters, because my kidneys are weak now, that my kidneys are just kind of sucking the infection in from what's left of my bladder. So they want to open me up to take that bladder,
to take the bit of bladder,
and look at my ureters and make sure there's no kind of anything stuck.
Yeah.
Gosh.
So it is it's quite heavy
Yeah.
with everything going on. But I think going back to like that original resection, I didn't realise like how extensive things were and how it would damage nerve endings, and kind of I lived with an indwelling catheter for 4 years.
Gosh.
Which was mad.
Yeah.
Like I used to expel catheter every 3-4 weeks with the balloon still inflated, 10 ml balloon, so I'd had a urethral prolapse every time.
Oh gosh.
So it was just a urostomy in the end, was just, we had to do it. It was one of those.
We need to explain all
Yeah,
of these
sorry.
No, don't apologise.
No,
It's
you
fine.
don't apologise. I feel like there's about 500 things that we need to go back on there. Not
Yeah.
from a medical point of view, just from loads of the stuff. Firstly, I just want to say that I think it's amazing, and not in a condescending way at all. You are sat here, you look amazing, you are very eloquent in how you speak about all of this,
you.
and you've been through like all of the things.
Oh yeah.
Like, so that was my first point. Definitely needed to say. There was all of the other things, so keep bringing them up. So with regards to, so an indwelling catheter means a catheter, the tube into your bladder, and then that comes, your urine comes out into a bag, which you could wear in like a leg bag, or you have a bag that goes outside on like a little hook while you go to sleep, because obviously you could, you wee quite a lot overnight.
Yeah.
Which is not ideal in your mid-20s, I assume, to be having, let's go on a night out with my catheter bag, and it's not entirely the look that I'm sure you would go in for.
Also, intimacy. I was married. Well, I am married still. Like it's a lot.
Not ideal. And then with regards to the catheter coming out, so we pop a balloon, like genuinely like an actual balloon with water in, that keeps the catheter anchored into the bladder. And Anna was saying that this was coming out with the balloon still up. So if you've got a balloon this big that's coming out of your urethra,
it would spasm so hard,
it's like pushing it out.
It would push it out, and then it would just tear through my urethra. It was
definitely not ideal at all.
No.
And then you have 2 stomas, and I think a lot of people don't understand that a stoma is just kind of a bag on the outside that's collecting something from inside. Because I think everybody thinks that a stoma has got to do with poo and from your bowel side.
Yeah, that is the line that comes off in my head.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
It is to do with the bowel.
but you can have a stoma that's to do with the bladder as well.
Oh yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So, because I think a lot of people kind of get confused with that a stoma is what people have if they have their bowel removed.
Yeah.
The amount of times I've had in A&E and they go, as a suprapubic catheter, and I'm like, no, it's a urostomy, and I have to physically show the stoma for them to be like, look, I've got one for urine, one for bowel. And I think it's just because it's not as common, is it? So I think it's mainly used for bladder cancer, if I'm right. And so, especially someone so young, they don't see it very often. So that's another thing that I'm quite passionate about, is trying to raise awareness of people who've got double stomas as well.
Things when you're younger, just because you look fit and well doesn't
no one would have a
necessarily
clue that I've got them under my clothes.
No.
I think, and it goes back to that, don't judge a book by its cover, isn't it?
Oh gosh, definitely.
Yeah.
So with the urostomy, it means that the bladder is bypassed. So the bladder is not used at all. So what you've got your kidneys, you've got tubes that come down from your kidneys, and then instead of going into the bladder, we bypass that by going into a bag.
Okay.
So bag for urine, bag for stool, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. And it has no nerve endings, so it's your intestine on the outside of your tummy, isn't it? But it doesn't hurt. So, but for ages I couldn't look at it. Like when I had my first one, because it was in lockdown that I had my first. So I was in hospital as lockdown happened.
Oh god.
When I had my first ileostomy, and then my first ileostomy failed within 10 months because it shrunk under the skin, and then my skin tried to heal over the top, and then that's when they decided we need to remove the large bowel as well, because it just wasn't. I had slow transit bowel dysfunction from all the surgery, as well as the endo just damaging it. So my stool was getting stuck at the end of my small bowel, so just nothing was working.
So I suppose it's like, I don't know, and there are various people that have been quite on social media with regards to this. One of them would be
Louise
Thompson.
Yeah.
Kind of talking out that actually this is a better alternative to what she had before, because I think a lot of people are kind of like, oh my god, worst case scenario, I'd rather die than have a stoma. People are very vocal about this, and it's good when people come out and they say, do you know what, my life is so much better because I have a stoma. There's no way that I'd want to go back to not having one.
No.
Because this makes life actually easier and less painful and more straightforward.
Yeah, definitely. Like, mine are irreversible. I knew that once I had like my second ileostomy done, they were saying, right, this is it. They've left, so I've had my rectum resected as well, but they've left rectal stump there, which eventually is going to come out, but because of all my history at the minute, we want to leave it in there as long as possible. But for me, my life before my ileostomy with my bowel was not worth living. Like, it was hell. You know, I'd pass out, the bleeding was constant. If I was either diarrhea to the point it was water, or it was I couldn't go at all because I had no muscle function. So in the end, the last 2 years before I had my stoma, they put a sacral nerve stimulator in my spine to try and control the muscle function of my bowel, to try and help it contract. Because when I was thinking I was pushing, it was doing the opposite, and then vice versa. So it just was not working. And then I had a slow transit study where they saw it just nothing was working in my large bowel. And that's when we made the decision to have my stoma. And to me, I would choose that every single lifetime if I had to live with that again, because it's just given me so much more freedom, you know. Like, I don't have to, well, I do to a degree, but I can eat what I want without having to vomit within the next 15 minutes. Or, you know, my bloated, I don't get bloated anymore. Like, my stomach was massive. I looked 7 months pregnant all the time, and I'd get comments on that. And when you're dealing with secondary infertility, that's not what you want to deal, you know, like, you don't want those comments. And I remember vividly actually being on a plane and an air hostess asking me, and in the end I just went, yeah, I've not got long to go. Because I just was like, and Scott turned to me and went, why did you do that? And I went, it's not worth explaining why, because it's just a spiel, isn't it? So it's for me, my ileostomy definitely has given me my life back. My urostomy, we're not friends at the minute, just because until things settle. But again, I don't have to live with a catheter coming out every 3 weeks. So in that sense, yes, it's given me more freedom.
And you had a catheter because you couldn't feel that you needed a wee?
So I had permanent retention. So my bladder just kept spasming and shutting off. So then at one point I went in and I had 1200 ml in my bladder, and I just couldn't let go. I couldn't get rid of it at all. And and then we twocked, I don't know how many times, so trial without catheter, and it just ended up in emergency every single time. And then so I had an indwelling catheter, and then for 3 years, and then they gave me a suprapubic catheter, which expelled within 4 weeks. And as we know, with the suprapubic, you have to get it in quick because it closes.
It's like a piercing.
Where does it go?
A catheter that goes into your bladder but through your tummy.
So like just above your pubic bone.
And mine didn't heal, so it was just passing constantly. And I had to pack it all the time, and because obviously I'm in the other side of rectum, I had to get to Liverpool Women's for them to put it in. By then it had closed, so then we just made the decision to put me back on an indwelling and then list me for urostomy in Aintree. So
it takes up so much of your life dealing with all of those complications, and hopefully the urostomy and you will get on well.
I'm hoping. So we're 2 years old now. I think it's just it was really, and I make this really clear because I have a lot of people who follow me who have urostomies or going to have one, and I don't want them to look at my case and think, oh my god, this is me, because it isn't. It was just bad luck. Like, I got sepsis post-surgery that damaged my kidney. So it just, unfortunately, one of those things. My kidneys are weaker than they are, and E. coli is a really difficult bug to shift, and when you're dealing with parts of your bowel, it's going to be there, and when it's going into your kidneys, it's just not happy. So I think if we didn't have sepsis that close, it could be different. But it's one of those things, and I try and not. Yes, it's controlled my life a lot the last 2 years. I've had, like, last year alone, I had 58 antibiotic treatments. Wow. It was just hell. And in the end, I had to properly fight for my care, for them to listen that, because I've got because they've taken part of my small bowel, obviously, now, that I've got such a quick transit time that if I swallow a tablet, it'll be in my bag within 20 minutes, and it's whole and I don't absorb it. So I'm really nutrient deficient as well, so I have to have injections to make sure that I get my nutrients. And I think for me, they were pumping me with all these antibiotics, and I was going, well, they're not working, and then I was ending up septic. So then for me, logic, treat me with IV antibiotics and then we get over it. So I had to fight really hard, and this summer managed to get it, where now anytime I show sign of infection, it's confirmed. They put me on IV treatment in the IV suite, and I have that done for a week to 10 days until hopefully, if this bladder comes out, that is the source of the problem, then we can stop, because the cycle is hard, because I'm in hospital probably, for IV treatment, it's been every month. And it's hard, because that takes its toll on your body, because I don't want to be on antibiotics all the time, because I'm allergic to penicillin as it is. So it makes it hard. And I'm their nightmare patient, unfortunately. Not like me being a nightmare, I'm not a nightmare, I promise.
Not intentionally.
But because I'm a challenge with everything, and like then it affects your ileostomy, because it affects your output. And then you don't absorb anything, so you're so tired.
Well, antibiotics often cause diarrhea as well.
So it's like, it's an absolute, like,
dehydration.
It's a revolving cycle. Or dominoes. That's I just feel like someone's pushed a domino and everything goes.
It's very, dominoes is a good one, actually, because it's just kind of like everything is just a perfect balance until everything's down.
It does, and it affects my liver, because obviously you're not getting what you need. So then I go jaundice, and my husband's like, your eyes have gone really yellow, Anna, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm fine. We need to get over it.
Let's get this sorted.
But I think I want to make it really clear, it's one of those things. Like, unfortunately, I just have bad luck, and it's hopefully next year we'll be fine, hopefully.
It's really like, so from an endometriosis service in place, they have like your surgeons, psychological input, a specialist nurse, a pain specialist, all that kind of stuff. But actually as part of our the MDT, we also have a fertility doctor, urology, and a general surgeon. But like, you have needed like all of the things.
Everyone.
Because mostly the operations get done by a gynecologist, and you have the input from other people or a bit of advice from other people. But actually, from like removing part of your bladder that's left, is there a gynecologist that's even going to be in that operation? Probably not.
No.
It's moved to somebody else.
I think this is it with endometriosis in particular. Not for everyone, but for a lot of people, I'm finding it as a charity now, we're seeing it more and more. And I do think that's probably down to wait times and kind of, the way they've had to wait or, finally get answers. But I've got many people on my team. Like, I've got urology, colorectal, pain management, menopause specialist, endo consultant, rheumatologist, bone specialist because my bone density is low, GP, if you want to include my GP, because primary care is really important. My stoma nurses, you know, I see them like nearly every month, and the one thing I would say that has really let the side down is psychological help. Not once have I ever been offered psychological help through everything I've been through.
I was going to ask you because you've described such a difficult thing for anyone to go through, and you've described it in such a positive way. You seem to have a really positive outlook on your life. You know, you're not sat there saying, you're not ruminating on the negative. You're saying it is what it is. This is where I am, and this is what I'm going to do with it. And clearly, you've done a lot of good for other people as well. Is that just you, or did you have good support from family? Where do you get it from?
Definitely. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I'm positive all the time, because I'm not. I definitely have my bed rotting days. And still to this day I do. I think the last 2 years have been really heavy with the sepsis side of it, because that has really kind of taken its toll. But I have, and it sounds cheesy, but I've got the most incredible husband. Like, we've been together 13 years, nearly 14, and he is literally the backbone to our family. He is that man who works all the time, comes home and makes me sit down and does everything. He won't let me lift a finger, and he's got such a calm personality that it has calmed me down. And I think that, and my dad makes me want to cry. My dad is my absolute rock, because he's the one who fought my corner. Like, I love my mum. I do love my mum. Just, she won't listen to this because she's not tech savvy at all. But
you give her a shout out anyway.
She hasn't got internet, but I'll give you a shout out, mum. But my dad, he was there every single time, every gynae appointment. He was in that waiting room, and
making me.
I know. He was, and he's not an emotional man. Like, have a drink and he'll tell me like how emotional he is, and he's the best person ever. But without him believing me, because there's so many people come to us as a charity where they've got no one in their lives who believe what they're going through. And I think for me, I want people to know that your pain is valid. I think that is the biggest thing. Your body's telling you something. You're entitled to that support. But yeah, my dad and my husband, and then obviously my daughter. I have to get up out of bed every day for her. Like, I've got no other choice but to make sure she's okay. And I count my absolute blessings that I've got her, because I was told when I had that big surgery, when I was officially diagnosed, that I wouldn't have children naturally, and I had her naturally 2 weeks before I was due to start IVF at women.
Love that.
So yeah, and she's just an angel, and I think for her, all she's ever known is her mum be poorly, which is sad. And I'll get you now, because we went to Lapland, UK, and she told Santa for her Christmas list she wants mummy to get better. Which got me. But then I had a phone call on the way home, and the GP had rang me and said, your kidney results are better. And then she went, Santa's worked. So I think definitely family has been my main priority. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I don't have those days where I literally will be like, why is this happening? Because there's been times where, I've had to miss out on so much because I've then been thrown into hospital. I run a business, so trying to run a business with clients where you then you get a phone call, you've got to come to hospital because your blood results are really poor, and your clients due to show up in 30 minutes, you're then having to let them down. It's really tough, but yeah, you've got to, the thing is, this is the hand I've been dealt, so you've got to kind of move with what you've got.
Yeah, but I think a lot of people would see it very differently to you.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's cheesy that you said your husband is your backbone, because my husband is very similar and very is amazing. But I do think having a support network is really important, and we have discussed this before. That having that somebody that you can kind of like bounce off and talk to and moan at and moan with and cry with and like laugh with.
Feel it for them.
Actually is really special and really important. And I'm sure he doesn't see you as somebody with like a condition that is like concerned about in that sense. He sees you as Anna. Because
it's funny because I'd been diagnosed when I first met him, and I remember on our first date I said to him, I've got endometriosis and this is what it is, and I'm due for major surgery next week. And then he stuck with me. And he stuck with me all those years, and I just think like we would never have foreseen what was going to come, you know. But out of that has come a massive blessing, and that's grace. And like we were very lucky to have her. Like I had a very difficult pregnancy with her, and she is genuinely our miracle. Like I will say that.
Delve a bit more into your experience of pregnancy and
so we got referred. So we were very, very fortunate that we were in a position that we had a house, we had stable jobs by the time I was 20. So we decided to try for a baby, and I thought, I'm young, I've got age on my side, it'll be fine, you know. And it wasn't. So within the first year, nothing worked, and I was doing all the ovulation tests and temperature and, you know, checking everything. No other 20-year-old was doing this, by the way. It was just crazy. And I've always been, I think because being so poorly from a young age, I think I've been older-headed.
I mean, I'm not being funny, but all those operations before you're 17, 18,
it's
like,
just
that changes the trajectory of where your head's at, surely.
Massively.
Like,
and I think you've got a different outlook on life as well. Like going out partying isn't your priority at all. It's trying to be well for the next day just so you can go shopping, you know, something like that. But yeah, so then I remember seeing my gynae at the time. It was Mr. Botros in the women's, and he said, well, with your endo, I think we need to just put you under fertility and see where we go. So we had all the tests done, and I'll never forget, and I cannot remember his name, I'm not going to shout him out anyway, but I sat with the fertility consultant having all our results, and he turned to my husband and he went, "You're the most fertile person I've seen today." And it was like towards the end of the day, and then he turned to me and he went, "You're the problem." And I just went, and my heart sank, because I was just like, he might have said it in like a funny way, but you know that just because you're that anxious anyway. So then and in that moment, because of the way my endometriosis grew, and they said there was no point doing hormonal treatments, it was just straight for IVF. So we then did the IVF counselling, then we had the meetings, and then funding then had to be approved, because I'm based in Wales for England, and we got it approved for 2 rounds. And then I got my start date, which I still remember, the 15th of September 2015. And we thought, because we'd had the date, we thought, right, we're going to go to South Africa, because at the time Scott's parents lived out there, and we'll do a safari and just one last blowout and come back. And went out there, and I was sick as a dog. And my sister-in-law is a GP out there. She used to be a GP in the British Army, and then she set up a practice out there because she met her husband out there. And she turned around to me and she went, "Anna, are you pregnant?" And I was like, "There's no chance. Like, there's literally no chance.
I'm having fertility treatment next week.
Like, there's no chance. Like, we've got a couple of weeks yet." And anyway, she went, "Can I just check?" And she checked, and I was pregnant. And I still vividly remember being on that safari bus and vomiting outside of it, and then having to do a 16-hour flight home, just vomiting constantly. And I felt, because we had to change in Heathrow to then come to Manchester, the same lady that was like sat here, because it was 2 seats and then like 3 seats. So me and Scott were here and she was here, and she sat in the exact same place on the Heathrow to Manchester from what she'd done to Joburg to London Heathrow. So she must have been like, oh my God, this woman. And I've got to say, BA, like, they were insane. They were really good. But from Manchester, Scott took me straight to Liverpool Women's, and I got admitted because I was severely dehydrated. And then it was then found, like, I had hyperemesis gravidarum, so I literally was vomiting every single day of every hour up until 30 weeks pregnant. It was hell. I also bled through my entire pregnancy. And then we planned, really did not want a section. Like, I was, just because of all the surgery I'd had by then. I think it was 7 surgeries by the time I'd fallen pregnant with Grace. And because they'd done a surgery to, like, clear out before. And I had to do, like, a short round of Pro-Stap to, like, ahead of it. And, so plan was 38 weeks to induce me if I hadn't come naturally, induce me. If I'd laboured over 12 hours, then they'd do a section because they didn't want me to struggle. And I was under a specialist obstetrics who specialised, like, in bowel, because at the time I didn't have my stomas, but my bowel was a real issue. And scar tissue was a big problem as I was getting bigger, and she came prematurely so I went into labour at 34 weeks and 6 days, had her exactly at 35 weeks, but I was in work. So I was in work, I used to work in an optician's, and I remember going to the toilet, and what I then now know was my mucus plug. Obviously I didn't know then. And I said to my manager, I went, I think I'm bleeding more than usual, because like I was I had to use pads anyway. It wasn't heavy bleeding, but it was, what they said I had was an eroded cervix. So then she went, Anna, was it like a clump? And I went, yeah. And she went, you need to go and ring your midwife. So at the time my husband was working in Manchester, and I was like, oh, I won't panic him, it's fine, it's nothing, I'm way too early. And my friend took me to Liverpool Women's, and they put me on the monitor, and I was contracting, and they said, can you feel that? And I said, no, it's just my back pain, like I don't, because to me I was used to pain. And they said, you're contracting there, can we examine you? So they examined me, and I was 4 centimetres. So I had to ring my husband, I had nothing packed. I had to ring my husband had to go home, I had to tell him where everything was, and then he got to me, and then I was like in full-blown labour when he came, because they had just about, because I remember the obstetrician vividly and the midwife arguing at the end of my bed, saying, one needs to, like, slow the kind of labour down, so I had the 2 steroid injections. But the obstetrician was like, no, she's got to just go with it, we'll give her 1 and we'll monitor. And because I had to take certain pain relief throughout my pregnancy, they were worried about dependency when she was born. And she was then born exactly 35 weeks at 5 pounds. And she was born in the morning, and she was fine. She was jaundiced in the incubator for 3 days, and that was it. She was. We were home by 5 days.
That's a good size. Yeah.
She would have been huge. Definitely. Because once she like got over that bit, you know, like when they're about, because she had suspected meningitis at 4 weeks old, so she had to have a lumbar puncture, and she was still quite dinky. And then I remember, like, from 8 weeks on, she just had a growth spurt, and she had those chunky legs. Just amazing. Cute. So, I count my blessings. But I'll still remember that midwife coming in after she was born and going, you know, if you want another one, you need to have a baby in the next couple of, like, try for a baby in the next couple of weeks. And I was like,
do you know what you've been
no, not going to happen. But part of me now thinks, actually, maybe I should have made that effort, but it's one of those things, isn't it? But
And things kind of then progressed because you had a hysterectomy.
So after Grace, I had an MRI at 6 months, when she was 6 months old, so 6 months postpartum. and it had grown back, or it was already there. We don't really know, how it was. But my rectum and my vagina were fused together, and the way they described it to me was, it's like having two pieces of paper stuck with glue in the middle and trying to coax them away from each other. Something's going to make a hole somewhere. So that's when colorectal came really involved, and we tried for so many different things. Like, I used to have to use the massive phosphate enemas like 4 times a day, just trying to clear out stuff. And then obviously I had my sacral nerve stimulator. So Grace was 18 months old when I had that done.
Oh God.
What's that?
So sacral nerve stimulator it's like a pacemaker, but it goes into your sacral nerve in your spine, and it controls your muscle function. So for me, I know they can use it for chronic pain, they can use it for bladder function, but they put it in for bowel function for me, to try and make my muscles contract.
It's trying to
move.
Come on, work.
To move
They're
the
not
poo
working.
down the intestine, because it just wasn't clearing out. And we trialled it, and they said you needed a 33% success for it to be implanted permanently. And the trial is hard going, because all the wires are like stuck on your back and you can't bend, and when you've got an 18-month-old, it's tricky. And it was, I think it was around like 50% improvement, so they implanted it permanently. Within 9 months it failed, so we tried everything, and then that's when I remember my colorectal surgeon saying, I think now we need to do a stoma. And I knew it was coming, I knew that was coming at some point, but it was a big adjustment, especially because I had it, and then lockdown happened as I was in hospital. So then because everything was so frantic in the hospitals, they'd only shown me how to change my ileostomy once. So when I got home, you just forgot,
So much
So my
information.
husband YouTubed it, bless him, and he found a creator who actually I know now through the work I do with Coloplast. And he's looked and saw how to do it, because I couldn't look at my stomach, because I hadn't had that prep. So I hadn't met stoma nurses beforehand, I hadn't had any psychological support. So for me, I was going in blind, really. Like, I knew what a stoma was because I'd seen it on socials, but nothing prepares you. But whereas my urostomy, they really prepped me for that, with living with 2 stomas, and that was a complete different experience. So that was, for me, actually much easier going to 2 than it was going from none to 1, because I was like, I know what I'm doing. So it was, although you feel like you need to be a bit of an octopus. It's tricky.
Oh my God, imagine you've just had a baby, adjust into that life, and then you can have a stoma, love.
I know.
What the heck?
Anna was amazing. She's just got so much to talk about, and she does it so eloquently and so calmly, and
So inspirational.
I feel like I'm not sure I'd be able to just list off these things and kind of be like, this is how my life runs, this is what happens, this is like,
They kept being
it's
breakdown
fantastic.
constantly.
We really, really enjoyed having Anna, but there's so much more that we want to talk about with her. The issue is we've had, all of the issues. all of the issues. So
Not just the
trees
issue,
falling
the
down.
issues.
Yeah, I know. Trees falling down, chronic illness, childcare, just all of the things.
Anything you can think of has happened today.
Yeah,
That's life
which
happened.
means that we are going to get Anna back.
Yeah, we're really excited to get her back, because we want to hear more about her menstrual health project as well, which is going to be very interesting for the listeners. So make sure you tune in.
Yeah.
Very excited.
Yeah, so we'll do a little disclaimer now, and then we will get Anna back, I promise, by Hello. Yeah.
So, a quick quick disclaimer, everything that we've discussed are our own opinions and not affiliated with where we work and shouldn't be taken as personal medical advice.
Hopefully you've enjoyed this episode. If you've learned something new, if you've fallen in love with Anna like we have, please do leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, it might seem like a little thing, but leaving us a 5-star review pushes the podcast out to as many people as possible. And we really want to get this great information out to people.
So we want this episode and the entire podcast to reach as many people as possible. So if you want to be part of that ripple effect, then please hit the like button now.
And make sure you're following us on all of our platforms at Between Two Ovaries and engaging with our content.